want to talk about something. What is your favorite Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie? The reason I've been mentioning is because I've been seeing the new video game that just released, and I've been looking at videos about it and everything like that, and I've been mentioning it in my head too. I'm not going to talk about it in a spiritual way, obviously, in this channel. If you know from my other channel, you probably kind of hint of what I kind of know about it, but I never went full deep into it. But I don't have to talk about it in this video. All I have to talk about is, like, as a horror fan, what is your favorite Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie? Obviously, the OG one is awesome. Right? The OG one is scary still to this day as fuck. Alright? Some people can't even see that movie without thinking that shit is fucking real. Just the graininess of the original 74 original of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was so great. But I did good up with the sequels more with the original. So I grew up with Chainsaw Massacre 3, the remake, and then the beginning. So I didn't brighten my horizon until I got a little bit older. Then I watched the next generation eventually. I think the generation was like the last one I watched after I watched the other series, because I watched 1, then I watched 2. And I thought 2 was way more fucked up than 1, mainly because it was doing a horror comedy type of stuff, you know? And at that time when that movie came out, there wasn't really such thing as a horror comedy. Yeah, it existed, but no one didn't. There wasn't like a category that people could be like, oh, that's a horror comedy, you know? People were just like, okay, this movie is weird, you know? That's all they said. But Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, in my opinion, is more creative, more violent. When you think of how Texas Chainsaw Massacre is, people might think of how gory and fucked up it is. But no, guys, if you watch the first movie, there's barely a drop of blood. The only type of blood that you see is getting Leatherface getting sprayed when he's putting that guy in the wheelchair. So that's the only time you see blood, you know, splatter on Leatherface. Or every time you see a lot of blood, the time we see Grandpa even doing that blood too, or when the main heroines, the final heroine, gets her cut in the finger. Again, barely any drop of blood, but it got a rated X. That movie got a rated X. If that movie came out today, it would have got a PG-13 or PG rating, and people would have talked shit about it. Think about that. The first Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, if it came out today, people would talk shit about it. People would talk shit about it, saying that, oh, there's not enough gore, it's not fucking horror and shit like that. But it's what it does is trauma. It's a good movie because the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie is literally all about the imagery, about how it's all about your imagination filling in the blanks. And that's what I love about the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, because that's how horror should be, man. Horror should not be that type of thing of like, hey, let's show, but not like tell. I mean, not that, but like tell instead of showing, you know? And then, because a lot of horror movies do that nowadays. Instead of showing, they're telling a lot. And it's like, come on, guys. The thing is, the reason we like the remake of It so much is because they did a lot of showing and not telling. I haven't seen part 2. People are mixed with part 2, which is kind of funny because the original part 2 of It is kind of the same way too. I'm kind of mixed with the original ending of It, chapter 2, of the original It 90s version. Because kind of loud, It turns into a spider. And I'm just like, come on, guys, can you make them into like still a clown, still having those multiple hands and stuff like that? Which they did do in the remake of It chapter 2, which I'm just like, you see, someone knew that whole spider bullshit was stupid. So if you're gonna make him into a spider, make him just regular Pennywise, just as a spider. That's creepy enough. And I'm like, thank you. So they were smart enough to do that. At least I saw clips of it and everything like that, and from what I saw from that, I'm like, that's not bad. That's exactly what I imagined when I saw the first film, and it wasn't like that. I was just like, oh, you ruined it for me. As a kid, when I was a kid. But anyways, my favorite Texas Massacre movies, obviously, I have to say 2. A lot of people love 2. Mainly because the main heroine in that movie, she's so fucking goddamn fine. She is, even when I was a little kid, when I saw that movie, I thought she was fine too. And for kind of loud Leatherface, man, she thought she was fine too. So, and she was a great screen queen. She still looks good to this day. And the fact that they didn't use her for the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie that came out on Netflix is very disappointed. I'm like, this actress is still alive. Use her. Same thing with the guy that played Chop Top. These two actors, use them. They're there, and they still make reference to their movies that they done before. They want you to hire them so they could be in these new Chainsaw movies. You know, it's just the way it is. And I found out too with the Chainsaw Massacre game, guess who they hired to play as Leatherface? Kane Hodder. They hired Kane Hodder to play as Leatherface, to do those scenes as Leatherface for the Leatherface video game that just came out. Yes, and I found out, and if you watch the Halloween remake with Rob Zombie, the one that played Laurie Strode and her best friend that got killed eventually, got choked. Both of those actresses are doing are doing like character models for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game. I thought that was so dope. I'm like, see, I was happy because these actresses, I don't hate these actresses in the Rob Zombie remake, because I looked at them and I'm like, you could tell that they are a fan of horror. You could tell. You could just tell that, I mean, for crying out loud, if they weren't a fan of horror, they never would join the movie, you know? So that's what I love about horror actors, because they love horror and they understand it, and they know it's not going to make a lot of money, but when it does make a lot of money, you know you got something good. And plus, it's low budget too, so they understand how it is. And sometimes, obviously, you're gonna have those horror people that don't care for it and shit like that. But again, what's your favorite Chainsaw Massacre movie? Because I have a lot of them. I do like the 03 version, but the 03 version over time gets lackluster, in my opinion. That's just me. The 03 version gets lackluster over time. And then it makes you want to watch the prequel to get something refreshed. But once you watch the prequel, and this is what I can think about it right now, I haven't watched them in a long time. So maybe if I watch them again, I'll probably get a new take on it. You know, I just haven't watched them in a long time because, I mean, why would you watch those movies all day, to be honest with you? I'd rather watch Freddy and Jason movies than Leatherface movies all day because, I mean, come on, guys. Let's be honest with ourselves. We don't watch those movies every day. Come on. That's just me. That's just me, man. That's just me as a fan. I'll be back real quick. Chainsaw Massacre movie, obviously it's number 3. I love the first 3 Chainsaw Massacre movies in my opinion. 1, 2, and 3. I think they're really good. I think they're very iconic. I've seen number 4. Number 4, look, I'm gonna have to be honest with you guys. I'm gonna have to be honest. I never told this story before. When I was watching Chainsaw 4, The Next Generation with my mom, you know the scene when they cut themselves when Matthew McConaughey's like cutting himself and shit like that. That shit did something to my brain to the point that it felt like it melted, that it sagged. That wasn't a good feeling. That wasn't good. When a whole movie can do shit that to you in your brain, you shouldn't be watching it. I am dead serious. Because these movies are supposed to be entertainment, right? Or supposed to make you think outside the box, right? They're not supposed to mush your fucking brain to the point that you feel like a fucking psychopath that you want to do this shit. That's the only part that I felt with that scene. The thing is, too, you saw people cut themselves, too, in Chainsaw Massacre movies before. So I don't know why in that movie, it just caught me off guard to the point that I was just like, not to my stomach, but to the brain, like it literally cracked my brain. Most people might be like, oh, because you never saw someone did that before or anything like that. It's like, no, I have. In horror movies? Come on, guys. Come on. How many times we seen my fucking get stabbed or stabbed other people and shit like that, and we never got phased through it. But one time someone does this, you know, like we feel something. I don't know, it's just something I want to mention. So I will skip The Next Generation, in my opinion. It's a good, curious watch. I'll say this. The Next Generation, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation, it's not a bad standalone movie. If you compare it to the other ones, they're shit. But as a standalone one, it's actually pretty fucking ballsy and pretty fucking crazy, in my opinion. yeah, that's it. That's really it with the fourth generation. And the old 3 version, again, I like it when I liked it as a kid, but after watching the original, it's not as good. Not to say I hate everything not to say I hate everything that Leatherface did in the original, I mean in the remake version. Even though the actor said fuck you to Gunnar Hansen. Yeah, did you remember that? Remember when the actor that played Leatherface in the remake of 2003 Chainsaw Massacre, when Gunnar Hansen died, he was like, fuck you, who gives a fuck? Yeah, I remember that. Do you guys remember that? As horror fans, as hardcore horror fans, do you guys remember that? If you don't remember that, then don't call yourself a horror fan, because that's a low attention span as fuck. And I'm just like, you don't remember that? Then I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you. Because that's so fucking disrespectful, man. That's so fucking disrespectful. Like, I understand the whole orc stuff and everything like that too. But when it comes to like these actors interpreting things that what the original people used to be, or all it is, but the colonizers look at that way and they'll be like, oh no, they're cannibals and shit like that, which they really weren't. But they just said it that way, and then they made movies about it, like just Chainsaw Massacre about it. When you see stuff like that, and then actors, when you realize stuff like that, and then an actor that portrayed it in the remake and looks at the original and says fuck you to it, I'm just like, fuck you. Fuck you. But at least the original actor understands why Leatherface the way he is. He did his research and everything like that. You, in the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, all you did was made Leatherface into another Jason Voorhees. He wasn't like that. All right? And to be honest, Jason Voorhees is really smart. He's smarter than fucking Leatherface, in my opinion. He is. If Jason Voorhees was part of Leatherface's family, he would command Leatherface to do shit. I'm sorry to tell you that. Because it's true. Leatherface is a lab dog. Jason is not. Jason Voorhees is not. He's his own man. You tell me, it's the same thing with Michael Myers. You tell him to do something, he will kill you. Alright? Except for, in Halloween Resurrection when, well, I guess if Michael's seeing a reflection of himself, and the reflection of himself is talking shit to him, he probably will listen, because he's looking at himself. He's probably confused. I don't know. I'm gonna say Michael is stupid, but sometimes people get confused sometimes. Because once you go to that point of like, you don't know how these horror killers think. You don't know how Michael Myers think. That's one of the reasons why people are so fascinated with Michael Myers. Same thing with Jason Voorhees and everything like that. We know how Freddy thinks because he talks. We know how Chucky thinks because he talks. We don't know how Michael thinks. We don't even know how Leatherface thinks. You see? And Leatherface is just a byproduct of his whole family, to be honest. And Leatherface is autistic, right? Basically, or retarded, right? One of the two, however you want to say it, right? So Leatherface, despite how you look at him, autistic or retarded, his family took advantage of that. His family didn't look at it and be like, no, he's vulnerable and needs to be taken care of. They looked at him and be like, he could be a fucking lab dog. And he will listen to everything that we want to tell him. And he would think that people that are inviting into his home are just fucking people that want to fucking hurt his own house and take away his own family. That right there was trauma. And that right there was trauma. Especially if your own siblings are doing it to you. Because when you look at the original Chainsaw Massacre movie, it's his brothers that are controlling him. Nothing more, especially the cook. The cook is the older brother. So the older brother should know better to not treat Leatherface like that. But he does. And it's like the old saying goes when he said in the movie, just because you need to do it doesn't mean you gotta like it. That's a great line for that movie. Because it shows the cook that he's conflicted. He's conflicted to the point that, yeah, I don't want to cannibalize people, kill people. But they made me no choice. Sorry, things are falling down from the sky when I was passing the trees. But anyways. But yeah, it's true. Things just happen sometimes, man. Things just happen sometimes. When you look at it that way, when you look at his family that way, when you analyze, you don't even have to be a therapist to analyze that shit. That's what I love about the horror movies in general. You don't have to be a therapist. You don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to do anything to get these horror icons. You know, kind of like you see these YouTubers that are lawyers and doctors that talk about these horror icons, and I'm like, yeah, go ahead, put your spin on it. But at the same time, you're not going to understand this horror icon more than the horror fans themselves. All right, because we understand these horror icons more than you will ever, in my opinion. All right, mainly because these doctors in real lives, these lawyers, they don't understand the common folk. Basically, they don't understand the Jason Voorhees or Leatherface and stuff like that. They just want to categorize them and make them say that they're stupid or violent or some shit like that. You know, we're not realizing that they're probably byproducts of either them or the shit that happened to them during a kid. You know, and that's what I love about these franchises of horror movies. It makes you think outside of the box for these characters, but also makes you think about how fucked up the world is that they're in. That they don't even like the world that they're in, like Jason Voorhees and Leatherface. The world that they're in doesn't even acknowledge them. For crying out loud, how many movies that we see with Freddy Krueger, and so many parents do not want to acknowledge Freddy? That's a bad thing. The reason they don't want to acknowledge him is because he will actually be born, and people can actually start remembering him because you're actually manifesting him. You see? See, I'm already talking about enlightenment stuff without even talking about enlightenment stuff because horror fans are really smart. If they just think more outside of the box, they would be like, holy shit, oh my God, you know? And they don't have to take shrooms or smoke weed or drink beer just to do that shit. But hey, if you do it, I'm not going to say it doesn't help. Hey, because at least you're thinking. You're expanding your mind more and you're questioning more. And that's what I love about these horror movies, because they make you question a lot of things that's out there. And if you here's a horror movie I've been watching that I need to go back to. It's called The Strain. It's a show, and it's about basically these vampire zombies that eventually are being basically, it's vampire zombies to the point that people start noticing that something's wrong. And there's like a little worm that goes inside your eye and stuff like that, and you become that zombie vampire and stuff like that. Yeah, dude, that shit is so fucking true and so fucking enlightenment shit. It's fucking ridiculous in that show. It's crazy. All right, that's what I love about horror movies, because they talk about so much shit that my ancestors used to be, but also what these wicked ones that want you to be scared to are, basically. Again, this is not an enlightenment video, but it's just something to fathom and something to think about, because a lot of these horror movies talk about real things. For example, again, going back to Leatherface, since we've been talking about that, the whole story with Ed Gein is true, but him having a chainsaw and stuff like that stuff wasn't true. But let me tell you this, remember during slavery, guys, what they call slavery, right? For crying out loud, when we were captured and these Caucasian people let us just to hunt us as a sport, what do you think they used? Same thing that you see in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They came after us with freaking knives and everything like that, machetes and chainsaws. Something to think about, and it's fucked up to think about that and to be like, holy shit. And then they made that into a Chainsaw Massacre movie. I'm like, yes. That's how Hollywood is. And Hollywood is fucked up to do that stuff. It's just the way it is. It's just that there's people out here that don't be like, oh, we should stop making movies like that. People don't never ask that. Mainly because, well, they don't know better, or they just don't know in general. But also, the reason we have horror stuff like that is because it speaks the facts and it speaks truth that there are all people out there that are like that. That's what I love about these horror movies, because they're showing people, yes, there are all people out there that are like that. That's why we have these horror movies. you know? So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, guys. Take care of yourselves. Love horror movies. All right, seriously, there's a reason why there's another category that's called cosmic horror. And if you haven't looked at their stuff about cosmic horror, oh, they are the real horror icons, right next to Freddy and Jason, and to the Wolfman and Frankenstein. But the cosmic horror ones are the original horrors. Seriously, why? Because in a real life way, those beings are real. But they can use them. They can make movies about them. I wouldn't even fucking mind. They should. Because look at Cthulhu. How awesome would it be if we had a horror movie of Cthulhu? And of course we have them, but I'm talking about mainstream that Hollywood is actually pushing and people can see it in theaters, that type of stuff. Instead of just like, oh, something you can buy on, something you can see on sci-fi or some shit like that. You know, something mainstream. That's what I'm talking about. You know. And I'm not talking about video games either. That's a whole different ballpark. But I'll see you guys later and be safe.